In this series of lectures, we're going to take a closer look at automating Nuke using the command line, a little bit of an introduction to Python scripting, and a closer look at TCL or Tickle scripting in Nuke. A lot of this stuff really isn't so sexy for some people, but there's a lot of pretty simple recipes you can use that will expand the functionality of Nuke for you quite a bit. I use it myself frequently just to automate little annoying repetitive tasks like naming files. You've seen that in the AutoMagic already, or batch processing things. So even if you don't really dig super deep into it, you should still be able to get some benefit out of using the scripting capabilities and the command line stuff in Nuke. Now, a lot of this information is in the user guide, which is huge. We're on page 700 here, and this is the part when we get to the stuff about configuring Nuke and command line operations and all this other stuff. So the first thing we're going to look at is the most basic way of automating Nuke, which is controlling it from externally from the command line. So this is one of the most straightforward ways of automating it. You pretty much just use the command line to render an entire script or to modify a few little things in your script when you render the script. So in order to do this, you need to open up a terminal. We're going to be doing our demonstrations in Windows here because that's what I have Nuke installed on, but this stuff works great on Mac and Linux. It works, in fact, it works even better on Linux and Mac OS because they're more Unixy than Windows, but it'll work okay on Windows as well. So the easiest way to get a terminal on Windows is to hold down the Windows key and hit R, the R hotkey. And this will bring up this run dialog. And you can type in whatever command you want to run. So we want the terminal, which in Windows is called CMD. So type CMD and hit enter, and now we have a Windows terminal. If you've never used your terminal before, it's probably not customized very well, and it's going to look fairly generic like this. It may not even have what's called quick edit mode, which is what allows you to select things and copy and paste. So let's customize this Windows terminal a little bit. If you right click on the bar up here, the sort of window border, you'll get this context menu, and you can go to the properties of the terminal. I like to increase the size of the buffer. Right now we only have 50 lines that will be stored in the history. So let's increase this to maybe like 200 lines that will be stored in the history. And we want to definitely turn on quick edit mode, which will allow us to copy and paste in here. And if you don't like the font, you can customize the font and stuff. Usually what I do here is I customize the size a little bit because right now the size of this window is not very big. So let's increase the size of it. So you can make it a little bit bigger when it first starts up. So now you have a slightly bigger terminal. I like to make it a little wider too. So now you have a slightly bigger terminal right by default when you open it, and it should make it a little bit easier to edit things. There we go. Most operating systems will drop you right into your home directory when you first open a terminal of any kind. So that's what Windows does also. We're in our home directory here. So let's go ahead and look at the home directory in Windows Explorer, which is the graphical equivalent. So we can sort of see what's happening over here as we do commands. Now that we have Windows Explorer open and our shell open, let's try doing some stuff. So if we want to navigate up or down, that is to say if we want to go into another directory in the command line or go up a directory, we have to do that with the command line. And in the shell, you can only ever be in one active directory or working directory at a time. So that's the working directory right here that's printed at the prompt. So if I wanted to go into, say, this .nuke directory from here, I would do a change directory, which is cd, and then go .nuke and hit enter. And then we would jump in to the .nuke directory. So now our working directory in the shell is .nuke. If I want to go up a directory, There's a shortcut for that. I can go CD and then ... And in both Unix and Windows, this period stands for, one period stands for the current directory or the current working directory, and 2 stands for the directory above me. So if I go CD ... and hit enter, I'll jump back up a directory back to the home directory here. So let's try just making a file real quick. I'm going to do, well, let's try printing something to the console first. I'm going to do echo and the classic hello world. And that will cause the shell to echo out this string, hello world. Let's try another thing, which is called redirection. So I'll do echo hello world, but rather than sending to the shell, I'm going to send it to a text file in this current working directory, because this is all this command knows about. So this little arrow will redirect it to this text file, hello.txt. Now look what happens over here in the shell or in the Windows Explorer. We can see that a file has been created. What if I wanted to see these files that were in this directory from the shell? The command for that in Windows is called dir. So that's how I can list the files that are in this current directory. So let's list it here, or do a dir to see the files that are in that directory. And sure enough, somewhere in that list, there it is, hello. If I wanted to delete that file, the command for that in DOS is del. So you can see, not very exciting, but you can do pretty much anything you can do in Windows Explorer or the Finder on the Macintosh, you can do in the shell. Obviously, there's a lot more to it, but I will let you explore those features on your own. Let's get to doing some stuff with Nuke, some useful stuff with Nuke. So this current working directory can be your enemy and also your friend when you're working in the shell. For example, you'll notice when I created this text file, I didn't create a path like this current working directory to send it anywhere. I could have, but I chose instead to put it right where I was. So if you kind of put your thinking cap on and think of ways where you could minimize the amount of paths that you're working in, you can work out recipes where you can essentially always work from the working directory that you want to do something in and save yourself a little bit of typing. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to move our working directory to the directory that we want to run the Nuke scripts in. So let's go ahead and do that. This is the directory that we want to work in. It's all the way in this really long path, and you can see that would be a bit of a hassle to type every single time. Now, if you want to get to a path like this, this is a trick a lot of people don't know. You can actually drag files from the Explorer into the shell. That works in the Mac, it works in Linux, and it works in Windows. So this is a real great shortcut for kind of doing a hybrid workflow of a half graphical and half command line when it makes sense. So we're going to use that CD command, and I'm just going to drag. I could drag the directory if I had that open, but I'm just going to drag a file from that directory. Now you'll see it brought the whole path, including the file. I don't need the file. I only want the path. Now watch what happens when I do this. In Windows, I did do a CD, but because this is on a different drive, Windows is a little brain dead sometimes. It doesn't know how to switch devices on its own. So I have to tell it either before or after that I want to switch to that device. In Windows, you can also do that by using what's called a flag. So let's say that I wanted to change the device, the drive, at the same time that I change the path. I can use a CD/D The slash is what Windows uses as a flag to add arguments to the command. And then I can give it the path that I want to switch to. Let's say I want to switch back to my home directory. So just drag that there. Now when I hit enter, it will actually jump to the new device while it jumps to the new path. So that's a way that you can edit things in, jump around both at the same time. So in order to get to the command history, I'm going up and down arrow. So let's do that again, jump back. I don't have to worry about typing that entire command again, which would be kind of a pain. If you'd like to execute a command in the shell, you need to type the name of the command. Now, if it's in the path, it will automatically execute. I don't think nuke is in the path, so let's try just typing nuke here and hitting enter, and you'll say, see, operation nuke is not recognized as an internal or external command, which means nuke is not in the path, the default search path for commands. So we'll have to type the entire path to the name of the command. Now, I don't know it right off the top of my head, so the easiest way to find it in Windows is to go get nuke, right-click on it, and go to Properties here. And that will show you the command that icon basically executes when it tries to run nuke. So when I click on that icon, really all it's doing is running this command in the shell. And then it's also jumping to that directory as its working directory. But if we give it the whole path, we don't need to do that. So I'm just going to select all this, right-click, copy. Now I have that in my copy buffer. And I can close that if I like. And to paste, now that we turn the quick edit mode on in Windows, I can right-click, and that will paste down that stuff I copied. So now when I hit enter, it will launch nuke for me. Okay, well that was super exciting. Nothing really interesting going on there, but at least now we know how to launch nuke from the command line. Now, typing this entire command could be a real pain, but Windows has a command that's sort of like, if you're familiar with Unix, the alias command. It will allow us to create a short macro that will let us launch nuke without typing all this stuff out every time. It's called DOS key. And what you do is you type DOS key and the name of the macro you would like to make, and then the name of the command that you would like to trigger with that macro. So I think an obvious name for the macro here would be something like NukeX. I would say NukeX equals this command that we use. So now I'm left clicking and dragging over this to copy it all. And then down here, I'm right clicking and that will paste it. And hitting enter. So now DOS key has memorized this command in this particular instance of the shell, and then when I type NukeX, it will trigger that macro and launch nuke for us. Wow, thrilling. Still not really doing anything useful, but we're picking up new tricks as we go, right? There's one little change we need to make to our macro to really perfect it, and that is to add a little bit more to the end, which is $ and star, and this is really specific to Windows or DOS, but that will allow in this DOS key macro, NukeX, to append any additional arguments that we feed on to the end of this little macro. So that will be our perfected macro, and now it's ready to go. So let's try rendering something here.